I am Anthony Rozwadowski with Rozwaduckie Design. I've been doing design for 30 years, believe it or not, and 21 of those years in Culpeper, but only a year and a half as Rozwaduckie. I love doing logos and branding. It's something I've been doing since high school for teachers, and I do logos for my soccer teams that I used to coach. Anything I can do something with a brand, I always like doing it. I do print and website design, so anything you can apply your brand to, I can design posters, t-shirts, banners, billboards, you name it. If it can be printed, your brand can be applied to it. So today's topic is about branding and nonprofits. But let's start out with what is branding. So a general, simple breakdown. It's kind of an umbrella term. You know, we're not talking just about the logo. The logo is one of the most important parts of the brand because it's the first thing most people will see, right? So it's got to make that immediate impact, tell a story. The other things that encompass what branding is are the colors that you're using. Those tell a story. Your story, your mission, your direction for your nonprofit, or your business, or your products. The imagery you use in your marketing, because you're going to do advertising. You guys all do events. You're going to have to do large scale printing, have your logo on small little items that you're giving away. So you have to think about all the applications that you're going to be using your logo and branding with. Branding encompasses your feelings and emotions for your passion, for your nonprofit, what you do, what your cause is, and how you get that across to the public. And most importantly, it's the execution of all of those items. So not just focusing on, hey, I got the logo, I'm just getting it out there. It's how you use that logo, apply it to the things that will get you the attention that you want. So part of the presentation will be me going over these items. Cody's going to be talking about the application of some of these items in more detail. Let's go to the next one. Why branding matters, especially for nonprofits. You want to build trust. Nonprofits, you're seeking people's time, their resources, funding, donations. You want to get them to trust you. So your first impression, because people do research online all the time when they go to a restaurant, businesses, products, nonprofits are the same. So that first impression is important. If your logo branding isn't very strong, people might not give you a second look or want to give a donation because they don't think you're legitimate or credible. So a strong brand presence will help that. So the care that goes into the logo and how you formulate that story, it's not just about the logo, it's about what you put into it and then taking all those pieces, the storytelling, the colors, the emotions, the direction of the nonprofit, and applying it to everything else, not just the logo. Let's see. So the legitimacy and credibility is important because you want people to come back, especially for nonprofits. Year after year, you're looking for funding, you have annual events. If you can get that trust and hook them, you know, you want to get that recurring attention. The second most important thing is you want to have a story to tell. My experience with nonprofits, that you guys are all passionate about what you do. You want to get other people involved. You want them to know what your mission, your goals, the cause are all about. and you guys can easily tell that story. That's why you're part of the nonprofit. You feel very passionate about what you're doing and you want to share that with others. So an example here is I'm on the Airfest committee and do the marketing for that nonprofit. I help them with their branding with a logo that's consistently used every year. I design a different poster every year with a different theme. But you can see I've kind of established a very graphic style to sell the event. And depending on, what planes we're bringing in or what the focus is of the show, I'll change what imagery we're using for the poster. So like 2021 was the year after we had to cancel the show because of COVID. So the event was, okay, we gotta make this uplifting. We wanna get people back outside to the event space. So Rising Above was our theme. The 2024 one, we had a special plane that came in that we wanted to feature, and we wanted to highlight the little glider up at the top. It was Manfred Radius' last show. And we also wanted to highlight our excellent remote control pilots that are always a part of our show every year. So there's an education component about that as well. And then last year's show was our 25th anniversary, so we wanted to include previous planes that flew in our show. Have a patriotic red, white, and blue kind of theme, but not go over the top with the bright whites and the reds and blues. And our motto that most nonprofits will have too, you want to reinforce that, is honor, educate, and entertain. So these examples kind of show the use of color, movement, and you can see that the branding, the logo, is central to each part of each of these posters, front and center. All right. Nonprofits need to connect on a different level than most businesses, because you want people to come back, dedicate their time, dedicate their funds, volunteer, and maybe become a part of your group year after year. This is an example of a rebrand I recently did for Northern Piedmont Community Foundation, where we wanted to rebrand it in a way that was familiar, using the 3 mountains. So we have that replicated in the new brand, but nothing in the old logo said anything about giving. It mentions strengthening our communities through philanthropy, but there's nothing visual that kind of connects you to wanting to give. So part of the rebrand was to kind of figure out what their new direction was, and they came up with a new slogan called "Mobilizing Generosity into Action." So we wanted something that was a little bolder, could be used in different ways, because this was the only logo they had originally. So very horizontal, very stocky. You couldn't use it without the text. So we wanted to take it to another level and tell their new story and kind of reflect back on, okay, some familiarity with their history, with the 3 mountains, but moving it forward with a hand kind of uplifting and
that's subtle. I didn't even see that.
replicating kind of more of the Piedmont area with the rivers, which were not part of the original logo. So it kind of gives you a piece of the location and that generosity, that it's uplifting, you're supporting the community. So telling your story and knowing your story can change over time. So over 15 years ago, I got to rebrand the Rappahannock Community Services Board. And by committee, they just dropped the word board. They felt Rappahannock was still an important part of their name. And I think their old, if I remember, their old logo were just two R's back to back. Very nondescript, very boring. And they wanted to go into a new direction because they had all these new programs for youth, adults, and the elderly. And they needed something to kind of bring that out to the public. So we wanted to do something where we acknowledged the old R's from their old logo, and we made them into people, which reflected the three generations that they wanted to. We had an adult embracing a child, and an elderly person looking on as part of the group. And that's what they stood for about 15 years ago. But over time, things change. And in 2024, I got to rebrand my rebrand. Because new leadership, new people on the board wanted to move it into a new direction. Their programs had changed. They weren't stuck on being tied to the region with Rappahannock in the name. So they went for a complete rebrand and called it Encompass Community Supports. And the goal for this was to kind of capture the community spirit in a way that didn't have to be, it could be a little bit more abstract. So we have 5 E's, there's like stylized E's for Encompass, kind of swirling into each other, kind of coming together as a community. They wanted something a little bit more brighter in terms of color and more inclusive. So we brightened the color palette for them. And we have a subtle little compass in the name, or compass pointing north, positive direction for the future. So that's how messages can change over time and within your same organization. So, you know, leadership changes, your goals change, but your passion doesn't. So your brand should reflect some of that. So what are the parts of good visual branding? What do you need besides a logo? And I know I'm just talking mostly about logos, but when Cody gets to talk about the application of these things, you'll see the whole complete picture. Like I said, with Northern Piedmont Community Foundation, they just had that one logo, and you really could only slap it in certain areas and work around it. So we came up with a system that gave them multiple versions of the logo to use for maximum flexibility. They could use just the symbol if they needed to without any words. They could use one with the tagline. They could use 2 different ones, vertical and horizontal, depending on if they get a long banner made or a pop-up where it's vertical. Flexibility is the key to having things in use for large print and small. So we're thinking about flexibility along the lines of color as well. The different colors we used for Northern Piedmont kind of reflected the Blue Ridge Mountains. They wanted something bold and true to kind of hold their credibility. So we used 3 shades of blue. The gold kind of gives a warmer touch to giving, and gold kind of represents, you know, wealth and money that you know, they were hoping to share with the community. But you can see that you can apply the different colors to the marks to use in different applications. Cody will also illustrate that in his part. But the flexibility of using colors, sizes, are all things you need to think about, because you're gonna have lots of marketing materials, giveaways, and hopefully, you know, the advertising will be consistent with that use. And how how's branding changed? Delivery systems have changed. Everyone's on their mobile phone or on an app, and you know how big those screens are. So you have to keep in mind how things look at small scale. So some of the trends and things you have to think about for mom to mom, she had a very it wasn't very bold, very thin lines, thin type wrapped around it. It was very hard to use. And if you used the heart and the hand separately, it might not tie together with the actual name of the business or the nonprofit. So this rebrand, we wanted to do something bolder with the colors, something that was really simple looking to connotate family of three. And part of what they do is they give resources to moms in need. One of the important things for them was to connotate diapers. So that's where we have a little touch of blue on the baby being held to kind of connotate that part of the business, where you don't have to force everything into the logo. You can do things subtly. So the heart can work separate from the actual logo type, where the heart replicates the heart shape in the main logo and kind of connects the mom to mom, literally, in between. And then the last part of that is the M to M, what I call an icon logo. She can use it on social media. She can have that at a really small size. The M to M will reinforce the mom to mom as an abbreviation. And she has more flexibility in putting that on smaller scale items. The other thing that's kind of changed are nonprofits and businesses are taking bolder risks at how they want to incorporate imagery into their brands. So for example, this is for the Culpeper Oyster Fest. They introduced a mascot logo to kind of add more fun to their event. And they can use this mascot, it comes in 3 different flavors. There's a lemon, there's one with a doctor's case, I don't know what the other one is. But they can put that on fun items that they give away or in their advertising to say, hey, families are welcome. Be Well Today for Tomorrow has a personal story to it. The Blackwells created a nonprofit to raise money for mental illness as they lost 2 of their adult children to the opioid crisis. So for them, it tells a personal story. Be Well is for health, but also kind of a play on Blackwell. The hummingbird and the butterfly represent both of their kids. And then the colors are representative of their favorite baseball, the kids' favorite baseball team, the Chicago Cubs. So that's another way of connecting, the person's story. And it wouldn't be me not mentioning pickleball, right, Faith?
Yeah.
So I had the Culpeper Pickleball Club, which is a nonprofit, and I helped them with their branding, and it was very targeted. We knew we're an athletic group. We're trying to get players to play. We knew they would want stuff to wear when they represent Culpeper at tournaments. So, we made it more like a team kind of logo. And we have the C and the P in there forming a pickleball paddle for Culpeper Pickleball. So in summary, even though I've talked about just logos, things are more than just the logo. The storytelling, the colors, the messaging, how you apply the logo should be extended away from the logo into the advertising, into the marketing materials, the giveaways. Basically my message, my takeaway is to, everything you put into a good logo should be expanded. The logo is the focal point and the first impression, but build off of that, and that's your brand. And that's what will make it successful for nonprofits. And I'll turn it over to Cody.
Listen, you got it, man. Just keep going. You got it. Oh, awesome. Thanks, guys. I honestly just could have kept listening to Tony. I forgot that I was presenting there for a minute, honestly. Hey guys, I'm Cody Banks. I know some of you guys in the room. I work for my own company called Banks Marketing and Design, Inc. We actually just renamed from Banks Graphic Design, LLC. I have about half as much experience as Tony does. I built my first logo in 2012, right after I graduated high school, and then built my first website for a family friend, and just continued to freelance from there. Worked for quite a few companies here in Culpeper. I'm from Madison originally, grew up in Madison, don't hold that against me. And then moved here to Culpeper when I got married to my wife in 2013. And I told my wife about 5 years ago, I just moved to a new job, and I told her, I was like, look, if this new job, it doesn't work out, I'm just gonna go for it all in. Series of events, had to leave the company. I was like, all right, we're doing this, and she was like, we're doing this. So started the business officially, again, about 5 years ago, LLC 3 years ago, and this year we were able to move to rebrand as an escort. One of the goals that I had is taking work off Tony's plate. Tony has been about the only graphic designer in Culpeper for the past 30 years. I refer to him as the godfather of local design because he is the GOAT. He is awesome. I have nothing but respect for him. And when I first started my business, he was actually one of the first people I called. I was like, hey man, I've been doing design for the past 12 years, started my own business. I just didn't want there to be any hard feelings. And in Tony fashion, he was like, nah man, it'd be great to talk shop with somebody else in the area. And from there, we've been friends for quite a while. So that's a little bit of background about me. I do have a team of about one other member right now, and I've had several other members who I contract with off and on. So yeah, that's a little bit about my company. So I'm going to talk a little bit about brand identity, going a little bit more into what Tony was talking about. I enjoy the visual branding piece of it, but where I really find my passion with is when I have a nonprofit that doesn't know how to communicate what they do, who they are, who their mission is for. I don't know where that comes from, probably just because I like talking about people and helping people find their passion. And so behind every brand identity, it's just like a personal identity. You as a person, who are you? How do you behave? What are the things that you like? What are the interests? So it does start with your mission. Okay, I'm gonna try again. We're gonna cut that from the recording. No. Mission, value, and identities. So your mission statement. I see a lot of nonprofits and honestly a lot of companies that have a mission statement and they think that it's for the public. And you can use it in a lot of your public marketing, but your mission statement is actually more for you guys behind the scenes. It's more for when you have those ideas where you want to think, oh, this is a good idea. I'm trying to think of an example of that, but that may fall outside of what your original mission is. You can then come back and say, okay, how does this new idea that I have support our target audience, what our original goal was, and that sort of stuff. Prime example is like for me, we started expanding into digital marketing because we saw that a lot of our clients, small businesses and nonprofits such as yourself, how many people in here know you have to have social media but hate it? Yeah, exactly. So we saw that as a recurring theme with our clients, so we started moving into how do we support our clients with that? Does it match our mission? So Banks Graphic Design, or Banks Marketing and Design, sorry, I can't, that is a hard thing when you rebrand, guys. I mean, Tony couldn't say Rozwaduckie for the longest time, I can't say Banks Marketing and Design, you know? So we're built on 4 pillars. It's integrity, encouragement, trust, and quality. Integrity, I tell all my team, no matter who you're talking to, treat them like you want to be treated. Simple as that. Encouragement, no matter what sort of engagement you're having. If it's a new client, old client, somebody who's never going to work with us, make sure you find something that they walk away with, that they feel encouraged in what they're doing. Those two things will lead to trust. I want to make sure that when I work with somebody, they trust what we do. They know that we have the best intentions at heart. And then the last thing is quality. We know we can deliver a good quality product. I don't need that as number one. I need to make sure that my clients feel supported so that they know that we're going to deliver a good quality product to them. That's how that plays out. I'm not just trying to talk about myself. That's just the best example I can think of off the top of my head. And then messaging framework. Messaging framework is how you decide to choose different ways that you communicate your mission or your values or whatever it is that you're doing. Prime example is Chick-fil-A doesn't say thank you, they say exactly. That is a different form of messaging. So you run into it every day in different companies where they choose to say my pleasure. Everyone in the room knew that because it's been drilled into you every time you go through Chick-fil-A. And storytelling, I'm gonna actually save that for the end. That is my favorite piece of brand identity because there's a lot of reasons I'm gonna talk about them in a minute. So one of the first nonprofits that I had the opportunity to brand, really take the time and rebrand, not just hey, can you make us a logo, hey, can you do this, really getting into the nuts and bolts of sitting down with a board of 5 different people, 10 different people, and how do we all make you guys agree on a logo, you know? So helping them, your visual branding, like what Tony was showing is what we would in the industry call visual branding. It is what people see, how they recognize your brand. That must align with who your intended audience is. A lot of companies or nonprofits will build a brand around who they are. But another piece of this that you have to consider is who your target audience is. If you are a nonprofit that serves blue-collar men and you make your logo pink, probably not going to hit that target audience very well. I mean, some blue-collar guys might, dig into it, but 90% of that target audience probably isn't going to resonate with that sort of logo. So you have to not only consider who you are and the color psychology of what you pick for your logo, but also what your target audience is going to resonate with. One of the things about the Mental Health Association, or FAWHERE, was it is a very large organization, Mental Health Association of America. How do you take their mission, align it with locally to FAWHERE, and consider the local needs of FAWHERE, but also their team? So there's a lot of different things we had to pull in together. And what we did was their logo here is actually, that's FAWHERE as a county, paired with a heart. I am very much a more simple functional designer. I like communicating with as little detail as possible. Anytime somebody says they want a logo that is very graphically heavy and drawn, Tony Rozwadowski is your guy. I refer them straight to him, man. He's got that all day. I'm a graphic designer who hates drawing, it's just the ironic thing about it. I'll do it in the computer all day, but if you need somebody to hand draw something, Tony's your guy. And so what we did was I took the county of FAWHERE because one of the things they said was that FAWHERE, people in FAWHERE, the imagery of the county is very recognizable to people. Is anybody from FAWHERE in here? Anybody part of FAWHERE? Yeah. So they say they made a heavy emphasis on the county is very much an icon on its own. So paired with a simple heart on the edge of it, and then I'm bummed I didn't put the other logo in there. Actually, in their horizontal logo, it acts as the eye above FAWHERE. So it's actually MHA and then FAWHERE, and it simply put is above the eye. So it all works together. So simply put, the takeaway for that is good branding doesn't only promote a product or a service, it creates a feeling. It should spark a feeling of trust, of happiness, whatever it is that you want your audience to feel, good branding should do that. All right. Now here's where a lot of times with nonprofits, the wheels start to come off. Is proper brand application is the hardest thing for people to understand, because oftentimes what happens is boards change, people different.
I swear I just heard.
No, it's fine. Yeah. It's okay, guys, we're just gonna roll with it. So proper brand application is often where the wheels come off. And I say that we can create you the best brand kit and give you proper logos, proper colors, and fonts. But if not applied correctly, it doesn't help you build trust with your audience. Oftentimes what happens is and Tony, I hope you can vouch for this as well, we'll often get a nonprofit client and we're like, where's the original logo? And everyone just throws their hands up because the board has changed so much. They don't know who the original designer was. That was done 10 to 15 years ago. And it's no fault of anybody's, it just happens. And so what our goal is as designers is to hand you a cheat sheet to say, hey, take these colors, these fonts, these logos, put them in Canva, because how many of you guys have a Canva account? Exactly, every hand in here. That is our job, that's our headache, to figure out what fonts and colors and logos are going to be able to be used by you guys in Canva. And I apologize if I start getting distracted. I have ADHD and those lights are just gonna throw me off a little bit, which is fine, it's cool. We're gonna roll with it, guys, and we're just gonna keep going off the cuff. But our job is to hand you that so that you can be successful. There is nothing more rewarding as a graphic designer than when you hand somebody a brand kit and you see their first social media post and it's with the fonts and the logo and the colors, and you're like, atta baby. There's nothing better. I just ran into a lady head on, we rebranded Studio 120, the yoga studio here in town. Ran into somebody who had a logo on the hoodie. I've been doing this for 15 years. I was like, can I take a photo and send it to my client? And the lady posed, took a photo, and it never gets old. So we want to see you guys be successful, and brand application is how you do that, how you build trust with your clients. So one of the cool things is when Tony and I have run into each other's design quite a bit in the community. So Tony did the branding for New Pathways Tech. How many of you guys know New Pathways Tech? So New Pathways Tech is it's a machining technical school here in Culpeper. It's actually by the Carver Center. Carver Center. It's right behind the Carver Center. I was trying to remember who in here said they were part of the Carver Center. It is one of the coolest hidden gems in Culpeper. I would highly recommend everybody look them up. If nothing else, but just to see Tony's branding. So when they reached out to us for social media services and marketing, it was very cool because being that it was Tony's brand, all I had to do was go on their website, pull their color palette, pull their fonts. They sent me the logos that Tony had sent to them. And from there, I created a social media plan for them, graphics. And so this is their main color. I don't know the name of it off the top of my head. I should have thrown it in the slides, but I didn't. So this is their brand color. They have an off-white and an off-black as their colors. And then there is a gray and one other color, I can't remember. But we use it in all of their branding. When you see this color and these fonts all together, you know that that's New Pathways. When a post comes up on your Facebook and you see that, it automatically builds trust because over and over and over, you've been seeing this sort of imagery, this sort of logo. I don't have anything else with that slide, but yeah, New Pathways. I had a thought, it's gone, y'all. So, but yeah, that's my point with that is that proper brand application builds trust with your intended audience. And another example of this is Cindy Curtis. Yeah, Cindy Curtis, old record master naturalist. Cindy, again, prime example is, I said, hey Cindy, where's the logo? And they had a couple good versions of it, but then there were a couple that were like, I don't know, like this big and blurry, you know, that were JPEGs. So we had a little bit of fun. We had to, you know, recreate a couple things. But from their old site, I went in and I pulled their color palette, their fonts, and applied it so that their new site and their rebrand shouldn't be such a dramatic change that people don't know that it's them. You know, it should look similar to their old site. It should have some of those same themes, so that all you're doing is you're taking the hand of your target audience, your target client, and being like, hey, here's our new website. That's all brand application is taking the hand of your client, your intended customer, and telling them a story, walking with them. Cindy, anything you want to say about the brand website?
We love it.
That's it.
We love it. That sums it up. Our website was ancient, outdated, really hard to navigate, and was more geared toward our membership, our volunteers, than it was to the public. So our communications committee got together and said, you know, this really needs to be for the public, not for us. So it was, Cody is so patient, I'll tell you that. Because we went back and forth a lot. I was afraid he was gonna say, okay, Cindy, that's it.
No.
But he was so patient with us and did a great job.
One of the things that we also do as designers as well is knowing the needs of Cindy. One of the things that she said was, hey, I want to be able to maintain and update this once you're done with it. So we built the site actually on Squarespace so that I could just hand the reins over to Cindy, because I know she can Google anything. She could say, create a page Squarespace, and they'll have a write-up on it. And so part of it is knowing the needs of the client and saying, okay, what's the long-term play here? How can we build this for long-term success for them? Cindy's emailed me several times since then about questions, and we're always happy to answer them because we want to make sure that what we do looks good. We want to make sure that you guys are successful as nonprofits. Yeah. So again, my takeaway for this whole section is consistency, 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 consistency. It will build trust 9 times out of 10. I actually work for the Culpeper County Sheriff's Office. I run their social media. I'm part-time civilian with them. And so any sort of funny videos and stuff that you've seen, I'm the guy behind it.
They were funny.
Yeah, well, you put Chad McKnight on a video, it's gonna be funny, you know? So, public agencies and nonprofits, trust is paramount. Tony and I will drive that point home. Trust is paramount. You have to build trust with your audience. Especially with a law enforcement agency, you have to make sure that your constituents, your community trust you guys. When Sheriff Chilton came in and he hired me on, one of the things is he was like, we need a total rebrand. We need to make sure that our mission matches and the new direction of the agency. One of my biggest themes behind the Culpeper Sheriff's Office is how do we put the human behind the badge? How do we showcase you guys? How do we show the deputies in their most human nature of like, this isn't just, you know, Deputy Makeley, this is Hunter. You know, he's a guy who, he's just another guy in Culpeper, but he's here to protect and serve. So if you go on the Culpeper, I meant to put a social media post on here. One of the choices that I made was we chose a very bold, italicized font. We did italicize, and I wanted to point it out when Tony was up here, but I didn't want to mess up his flow because he was on a roll. Was one of the choices I noticed he did with the Northern Piedmont was their tagline was italicized and it was mobilizing, what was the tagline?
Generosity.
Yeah, into action. And what's that subtle decision to italicize shows forward motion in a logo. And so with the Sheriff's Office, by choosing a bold italicized font, I wanted to show a bold change and that we're moving forward in a different direction. And so if you go on the Sheriff's Office page, you'll notice there's consistency across the board with that on any of our branding. And again, we made sure that consistency, so that you guys knew this is the new direction the sheriff's office is going. Okay, question, which one's Coca-Cola? How do you know that?
You just knew.
You just knew. So what I love about this example, I use this all the time. I just use this, I'm a coach for E Squared. What's up, career partners? I'm a coach.
Thank you for being a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the best thing in the world. So, I'll recruit any of you guys to be a coach next year. I use this as an example with the students. So if any students are watching this, don't tell on me in the comments. But Coca-Cola, a red square. I didn't show you anything else. I just showed you a square that is red. And you guys automatically knew Coca-Cola. Because brand consistency. Over and over and over, since they have started, Coca-Cola has been red. If I threw a yellow square up there and I was like, is that Coca-Cola? Everyone's gonna say no, because Coca-Cola is red. So you can see that's just an easy example of how visual branding is so impactful when done correctly. All right, here we go. Storytelling. So storytelling is the ability to effectively communicate your message in a way that engages your audience. There are 3 elements. I did not put this down, and like Tony at 2 a.m., I was like, what else can I put in my slides that I didn't put, So there are 3 elements to storytelling. There's a lot more, but the 3 main things you guys should take away with storytelling that you can use in social media is, who is my client? What is their problem? And how do I solve that problem? Who is my client? What is their problem? And how do I solve that problem? So you have to think about who you serve, like who's the intended audience for your nonprofit, and then what is their problem? What is the problem that you guys are trying to solve, and how you guys solve that problem. So when you have those 3 things laid out, then you can start creating social media posts around how you guys help solve these problems in our community. It then takes out 90% of the work, because you're not just throwing spaghetti noodles at the wall and seeing what sticks. You've actually got a framework that you can build posts out. Okay, so I don't know if this still resonates with people. I used this to a group of high school kids, and I was like, they probably haven't even seen an advertisement of Santa with Coca-Cola. But how many of you guys remember the first time you saw an ad like this? You're a kid, and all of a sudden you just feel that warm, safe feeling. When I was a kid, the first time I saw this, I was at my grandparents' house. I was staying the night. It was on a commercial break. I was watching Home Alone. And come on, what's up? That is a solid movie, man. I can talk about that all day. But I remember the first time I was seeing this, I'm at my grandparents' house, and it's Christmas time, and you just feel warm. That is brand, that is how your messaging comes through. That's Coca-Cola. They've had visual branding, even the red, all that, it worked together for them. And it's one of those things that how your brand identity comes through in real time. I wanted an example so you guys could see, like, brand identity is not just this abstract thought that I'm just like, hope you guys figure it out. It's like, no, this is how that happens. Okay, how many of you scrolled past a post on Facebook? All of us, we've just scrolled past a post that we just, weren't concerned with. But the real question I want to ask you guys is, do you know why you scrolled past that post? Simply because you didn't care. At the end of the day, you didn't care. And so the cardinal rule for storytelling, the takeaway for this section is, make me care. Every one of your target audience, your clients, whoever it is that you're trying to get their attention, make them care. Why do they care about what you're doing? So you have to think about, like, things that you're engaging with right now. What's making you laugh? What gives you an emotional response? Things like that, and then figure out how you can apply those trends to your social media planning. Right now, I'll be honest with you guys, social media is in a very weird place. I'll talk on this a little bit, but I think we're gonna have a lot of questions about social media and branding with that. So I'll make sure that I save time for us to do Q&A. But one of the things is, I will say to you guys, social media is in a very, very weird place. Ever since the TikTok ban and that sort of stuff, it just kind of threw off people's engagement. It threw off what we're interested in. We're not seeing a whole lot of consistent trends. And so the thing that across the board that will always work is authenticity. If you have an organic post that's, like, I'm gonna post about Tony and I speaking about this. Those types of posts will hit every single time because people care about people. People don't care about companies, they don't care about organizations, they care about people. And so when you can have it come through what you guys are passionate about as a company, as a organization, as a nonprofit, that's what they care about. They don't care about, just a random statistic. You want to make them care about what it is that you guys are doing, why you're passionate about it. Does that make sense? Okay. So to incorporate storytelling into your marketing, consider these three things. What is the message I'm trying to communicate? Who is the information for? And why do they care? If you can think about those three things before you make a post, you'll make those posts way stronger than if you were just, again, throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something sticks. I think, that's all I had. That was my last slide. So again, my takeaways for this are consistency, making sure that when you get your brand kit, your brand guidelines, your logos, your colors, use those across the board. Too many times we see, again, nonprofits that they'll see a pretty Canva template and they're like, oh, this one looks great, and it doesn't have their colors on it, their logos, their fonts, anything like that. Avoid that. If you need help with that, I promise your graphic designer will love you and thank you if you reach out to them and say, hey, what were the fonts that I was supposed to use? Or if you need your brand guidelines sent to you again. We love making sure that you guys are successful. And then those storytelling features.
I have a question about the Canva. So,
Yeah.
are you allowed to have brand kits with free Canva? Because I have Pro, obviously, so
Yeah.
I work for tech essentially, and we have all of our brand, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know if, you were just gonna use free Canva, if,
I don't know if you.
Free Canva does not allow brand
We have a
kits, you have to have a
Canva
program.
account and it allows, it gives us a team of 50 and all of the premium features and it's.
right, but you also may not be, we've run into this at Extension with a lot of people having this free educator account, but they also will not, some of the fonts that we use for Virginia Tech, like Epilogue and Arial, they don't have Epilogue in it,
So-
As far
You
as
know what I
can
mean?
get
So,
any account we have.
Yeah, well, and to your point, you're both right. So
Yeah.
free you can't, but as nonprofits you can get a free Canva account.
But it's different than the free account.
They'll give you the pro version. It's like a pro
Right,
version.
but you still may not get all of the fonts that I get in the Pro account.
If you want, I can send you
Oh, no, we've done, I work for tech and it's 107 units that we're dealing with, so.
Yeah. Tell you what, if you run into any issues, send me an email or send me a question about it.
What's the general rule on how often you should refresh your logo or your branding?
Oh God, that's a general rule. There isn't one. I'd love to say every 3 years, unless Tony, there isn't really one.
I mean, there's something to be said about longevity.
Yeah.
Look at the 4-H clover. Let's just bring that one up.
So
That's
logo
100
one,
years.
logo one, when I first moved to Culpeper, I redesigned Pepper Bears. And she's had that logo ever since.
Yeah.
So that's over 20 years now. She doesn't want to change it.
She doesn't want to change the paper we pink logos either.
Good try, huh?
But when I first worked with her, she had she had changed every year because she couldn't hit on the right one. And it was just at a good time that she was figuring out that she was going to get into clothing at the time.
Mhm.
And she wanted something that could work on her tags. And she was thinking literally at the time. She was thinking a pepperberry bush, and she had this window and door that she was fixated on. And the idea I pitched to her, like, let's think outside the box. What if it's something abstract that kind of mimicked the berry and some of the colors that she liked? And we did it in a way that it was a circle, which could easily work on circular tags or stickers that she could easily use. And she's had it ever since.
Tony, in the for-profit world, keeping the logo for 30, 40, 50 years is pretty typical.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You invest a lot of dollars, and so you really don't want to change.
Correct.
Unless you've got major changes in your business or
Yeah.
your business is failing for some reason, but,
Yeah.
And there's different ways you can change it too, like my example with RRCSB going to Encompass. You know, that was like a total rebrand because
Mhm.
their mission had changed, their priorities changed from what we originally rebranded. But you can do subtle ones, kind of like the Northern Piedmont one, where we're still
It's close
keeping
enough, yeah.
the mountains. It's more of like a transition than something totally new.
Yeah, so I'd say there's not really a rule of thumb with this many years have passed and you need to. So as far as time goes, I wouldn't say that there's any rule with that. But thinking about, okay, has our mission changed? Has our target audience changed? Have these things that make up who our nonprofit organization is, our identity, has there been a major shift in our identity and our direction? A prime example, my company, I've only had my LLC 3 years. It's 2026 now. Yep, 3 years. And we were Banks Graphic Design. Well, we originally started as logos and branding and then websites. And now that we've gotten into marketing, our direction has changed enough that we just had to do a subtle change to the name and a subtle change to the logo. It's still the same logo. It's just the wording has changed, and that was significant enough that I needed to make sure that my clients or potential clients knew what we were about, knew that we were also providing marketing services, because you don't get that from just graphic design. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do we need to do anything before we move into Q&A, or? I mean, we're kind of naturally started into it, but yeah.
I think we've already started, so why stop now?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure you didn't have a smooth
No.
transition.
No, I mean, of course, you know, the whole point of this program is to make sure that all the nonprofits have a way to be able to move forward. You all are businesses, you know, regardless of whether you have the words nonprofit attached to you. So making sure that you have the ability to grow your organization, whether it be through visual branding, whether it be through social media type, marketing materials and the like, this whole event is for you. So if you have a question, you know, about what you can do, what is working, what's not working, trends, you know, yes, now is the time to do it, especially if you think it's, you know, it's pertinent. But I mean, you're always more than welcome to reach out to these gentlemen. I'm sure they'll be happy to give you their business cards.
Yeah, I just rebranded, so I don't have any, so I'll give you my number, all that.
Of course, you know, you actually, well, I say, where's the person from Express Copy Graphics? They would have
She
already left, yeah. But yeah, now is the time to be able to ask these two professionals a question and move forward from there.
So one of the things, before we get into questions, I do want to stress this right before we get in. I will say, if you're, I'm actually doing a series in the next couple weeks on my social media called "If You Don't Work With Us." I think Tony will agree with me on this. If you're not going to work with me, please work with somebody locally. I've seen way too many nonprofits taken advantage of. They'll pay $10,000, $15,000 for a website from somebody in California, North Carolina, some other state, and then they can't get a hold of them, or they've delivered a half-baked website. Tony, if you go and work with Tony, I am not going to be mad, and if you work with me, I'm sure Tony's not going to be mad.
We refer stuff back and forth to each other
All the
for the
time.
best fit. I get that a lot, that
Yep.
people in the area want to work with someone that they can call up or meet in person to discuss things.
Yeah.
Because they don't want some nameless voice on the phone that they can't get a hold of.
So if you're not going to work with, there's another design agency in town, Satva, Creative Pam. She's awesome. We will happily refer you to one of us. We just wanna make sure you stay local because we wanna see you guys be successful. So please, 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 if you can trust this to all the other nonprofits in the area, go with someone local. Go with someone local.
And to that point, you know, I'm the chair of Aging Together, and Ellen, our executive director, has reached out to Tony and has been talking with him about having him to be there to be able to help navigate some of the weirder things that we might encounter, because we encountered just what you said.
Yeah.
There's some company that we're working with, and it's a vendor that we're using for our CRM, but they're also creating the website, and they are not very conducive to answering our questions quickly.
Yep.
So having somebody like Tony or yourself to be
Yeah.
able to say, hey, how do we fix this, or we need a quick help, or, you know, what do I do, or
Right.
what recommendations can you give, I think is so important. So having the resources in our community with you gentlemen and who, the other lady that you mentioned, you know, we certainly, Pam, yeah, we're certainly blessed in Culpeper to have a team that really cares about our nonprofits and about our businesses.
Yeah. We just wanna see you guys win. Jesse, you have a question?
I had a question, because we didn't really touch on it, but have either of you had experience with like situations like ours where people mostly know us as SAFE, which is, you know, kinda stands for Services to Abused Families, which is on some of our stuff, and then our website, and I'm not even sure how this came to be, because it was way before I got there, is safejourneys.org. So sometimes people think that we're called Safe Journey, like I think it does get confusing for people sometimes as far as like, are we the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to
And then
deal
Jess,
with it.
we bring in the fundraising piece of it too, with the
Yeah.
Friends of Safe.
Right, and then there's, well, Friends of Safe is just kind of like our group of volunteers
Yeah.
that does, they are.
I heard some confusion on that from the Mardi
Well,
Gras.
Yeah, there's a little confusion, I guess, on who put the thing on, but I mean, they raise money for us, but I think with some of it is like people who have been in the area for a long time and stumble across our website and Safe Journeys.
And Culpeper's growing, so you're gonna get a new.
Yeah, I know, so like the
well,
newer people that aren't, you know, where safe is safe to people who've been here forever, but the website name sometimes I think causes confusion, and I guess we're considering like a slight shift in branding also for more of that flexibility we're talking about.
Yeah.
'Cause our logo is, you know, it's this one thing that it's on everything and it's been the same forever. So we'd like to see some more flexibility and maybe a slight change that maybe ties in like some of that, so.
It would, I mean, so when Shelley mentioned the same thing, because I work with cars,
Yeah,
and, you know, you think the word cars has to do something with automobiles.
Right.
Yeah.
But their website is He Restores.
Yeah.
right.
And then they have little sub-brands of things that just don't,
Not good, easy.
yeah, just, there's look and feel that you try to tie together, but, I would just suggest that if you're ready to make that move, then sit down with someone like Cody or I to kind of, okay, let's plan this out. Like, what other options are there? Like, can you get away from, keep Safe Journeys so you can point that domain to something that's more safe related.
Right.
But because of the word safe, it might be hard to find a domain.
And I'm guessing that's why they did it on.
Right, they probably thought, okay, adding journeys was something more provocative to, you
And
know.
I like the name of our website. It
Mhm.
just doesn't like match our name, and so.
Yeah.
Or the other approach you could take is, okay, how do you work journey into your messaging?
Yeah. that's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I-
So you can make that connection with that word.
Yeah, right.
It's more complicated with like Shelley, because
Yeah.
that cars automobile thing is
Right.
pretty
Very-
strong.
yeah.
And there's another cars here in Culpeper.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, it was for me.
Right,
too.
and Shelley and I have talked about it for years, we just haven't had that
Mhm.
moment where, okay, we're ready to tackle this.
And then I have a second question that's like on a different note, it's I guess more about the services. Do either of you guys provide services where you just kind of act as support for somebody who already has like a website, just to, like, how do I do stuff on Wix that I can't find an immediate answer for? Do you
Yeah.
guys do that on like that, just kind of come to you?
Consultation
to
type,
business?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we do, I'm sure Tony does. Yeah, a lot of what we understand.
You did for Culpeper.
Yeah, we just, I can't, you did the website for Culpeper?
The original one, yeah.
Yeah, so, Andrew reached out to me for the website, and he was like, hey, we just need to restructure this so it flows a little better.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just, it was a lower rate. We understand you guys are working on a budget, and so that's why we try not to get, I at least try not to get into the argument of like, what's your budget, what's your price? You know, it's like, no, what's your budget so we can build you a package
What's
that-
sustainable.
Yeah, the last thing I wanna do is send you a price for 5, 10, 15, however much thousands of dollars, and the wind get taken out of your sails. Tell us what you're working with so that we can tell you, hey, we really can't do that, or hey, we can do this within it. We wanna work with you guys. But yeah, as far as consultations, all the time, like I'll get on an hour-long call with somebody, go through their site, tell them what needs to happen. But yeah.
I'd say that, like Jeff mentioned, I was talking to Ellen, and, you know, they have a new CRM that they just moved to for their website, and I'm willing to learn it to help support them and be a backup just in case they, you know, can't handle it or someone's on vacation or something, you know, happens.
And I will say with websites, I am an expert in Squarespace, Wix. I tend to steer people away from Wix, but I can't do it. And then a couple others, bunch of those little ones like Square and Shopify and that sort of stuff. WordPress I can do 90% of the time if it's somebody who has a nightmare of a WordPress site and they don't have a theme builder. I'm gonna refer them to Tony.
I'll build WordPress sites because they're more portable.
Yep.
They work with mobile really well.
Mhm.
They're very flexible with design. So if, you know, you have a website that, you know, was with Wix, you have to pretty much stay with Wix.
Mhm.
If you move somewhere else, you have to kind of like copy and paste all that content and rebuild it somewhere else. Whereas WordPress, I kind of sell it as, if you move to another hosting, you can most likely install WordPress and then port it over and start over with a fresh copy.
There's benefits to both.
I was gonna say, earlier, I guess, last year or whatever, I think sometimes with nonprofits or even for-profit companies, you know, we're all working on a limited budget, whether you have a nonprofit or a budget, or a profit budget. But I just wanted to say that I think that, with the logo, like, recently, my husband has a food truck here in Culpeper, and Tony designed the logo for that. And the way that it happens, though, there were so many things that we hadn't thought about. We kind of created a logo for ourselves for free, right? Yes. And then we started to think about, okay, how is this gonna go out? So we reached out to him, and it was very affordable, but the bottom line was there were so many things that he brought to us that we wouldn't have thought of or asked, because that's not what we do. That if we hadn't have used him and the little bit of money that we paid for it, it's already paid dividends, and the fact that he thought about, like, when we put it on a shirt, how's it gonna look? And we put it on a big wall, what's it gonna do? And things that we were creating would have been a nightmare for us down the road, because we hadn't, you know, had enough experience to build that. So
Yeah.
I do think it's worth it, finding somebody local, and you know, I'm not here to be a commercial for Tony, but I didn't even know he was gonna be here, but I just wanted to say that it really does matter getting an expert, and that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about the things that have worked or are currently working. What are trends both in, you know, graphic design, website development, or social media that is not working?
Ooh, I can tackle that one. Just this past 2 weeks, I've gotten an influx of AI-generated logos and images that need to be printed for a giant backdrop. And AI can generate some beautiful things, but it's not thinking about end product. It's not thinking about how you're using things. So I basically had to recreate a logo from scratch because they don't know what fonts were used in the ideas that generated that logo. Now it's in a vector format that they can scale, whereas before it was stuck with a background that they couldn't detach it from. So you're almost paying extra to have someone fix those kind of generations. With the backdrop, it was beautiful, but it wasn't using any imagery from their location. So I did a quick Photoshop collage job to kind of mimic that to the best of my ability, because it had to be printed on a 10 by 10 foot backdrop.
Yeah.
You know, you can get this nice 72 DPI beautiful image that looks great on your screen, but that's not going to print. So I'm running.
Yeah.
Just these past 2 weeks, I've run into those issues.
Yeah. I have another, I think it was the nonprofit, the AI thing I did, was that the nonprofit council, the training? Was it? Yeah. So there's another training.
As business.
A small business.
Okay, there's another training online, it's a little outdated because some of the, a couple of the AI tools I've now since transitioned to others. But one of the things that I talked about was like the ethical usage of AI. And AI, again, I will agree with Tony, as a graphic designer, it is an incredible tool for ideas, thoughts, like getting your brainstorming out. As far as creating flexible, applicable, long-term logos, you're not gonna be able to trademark it because it's pulling from other artists' work. There's a lot of things you can't do with it. So I'll say, like, as far as a trend goes, that is something that, not just because I'm a graphic designer, I'm trying to be a snoot about it. Like, when I see somebody who's created their logo, somebody creates their logo in Canva and they're like, can you build me a website with it? I'll do it all day long. Good on you, man. Like, way to go. But with that sort of stuff, yeah, I would agree. Trends with AI will help you kind of navigate those. But I will say with social media, again, organic, authentic content is always going to be king. One of the things I'm exploring, and feel free to use Banks Graphic Design or the Sheriff's Office page as a cheat sheet. One of the things that I've done some deep research on and looking at, who said cheating the algorithm? They wanted to learn how to, yeah. The algorithm with Facebook has shifted, and I'm trying to figure out how to put this into words, but like long forms of text have always not done well, but even like, you'll notice a lot of captions now are single sentences broken up one at a time. There's a couple other things that I'm gonna be posting about here shortly, but if you look at like the caption format, as single sentences, it's for mobile optimization, and Facebook is actually prioritizing those because on a mobile device, it's easy for people to scan and they'll spend longer on a post than if it's, 2 to 3 paragraphs of text. And it's not just, people are scrolling past them, it's actually Facebook is prioritizing them. And then there are other, and less emojis, like in your captions, like 1 to 3 at most in your captions, because it starts to look spammy. Those are a couple things that are not working right now. And make sure if this was outdated about 6 months ago, I think, make sure when you're doing posts on Facebook and Instagram, you move to 4:5 ratio and not 1:1. Takes up more space in the timeline, so your picture captures more attention, and the Instagram grid is now 4:5. So that's what I got. Any other questions?
Can I do a whole social media thing with this?
Yeah. I'm exploring that, how to help out small businesses and nonprofits with it. Truth be told, I see the need for it and we provide services for it, but I'm trying to bridge that gap right now, so just stay posted. I'll make sure you know, Cindy.
I would definitely lean more towards his generation for that expertise, because I'm still old school. I use it the way I like to use it.
Yeah.
Tony, one thing about design, you really can't design it for the desktop computer. This has to be how it's designed.
Yep.
This is how people are seeing everything.
Yeah.
So it's got to work in this very compressed format.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was talking about, like, you think about things one-dimensional, but when you get something that has an experience, to make sure every platform it matches, or this works for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with Tony for years. I'm from the newspaper end as a former journalist. Tony, how much of a difference is it from going from print media to social media and to, as you said, this little screen, whereas before we had an 11:17 sheet that we were working on, and now it's, a tiny little screen.
Yeah, I mean, I still work with a lot of print media that you can look more complicated and more interesting when it comes to print. And it's just a matter of simplifying that for those smaller screens. And like Cody said, the easily digestible chunks that social media, propagates and puts forward as more important. Again, it comes down to, like, with the branding stuff, flexibility. Like, you'll have a full size poster with a lot of information. If you get to like a postcard size, it's more bulleted. When you get to the post, your content is written out and it's mostly just the graphic.
That's why I appreciate the logos in different aspects.
Right.
Because, one thing that might look good here isn't gonna be large enough for a full page in print media.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes to like full color versus getting things down to single color and white on dark backgrounds versus.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish we would talk about that.
Yeah,
Contrast.
reversing things out of imagery and the types of imagery you use are important to the storytelling too. Like
Yeah.
Cody's example of how you use my new Pathways branding, the pictures he chose
Yeah.
of the people actually working and engaging in the craft
Yeah.
is important and sells the message.
So this is actually New Pathways in the background. That's actually the facility. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend taking a tour. Sue's great. She'll take you through the tour. You'll be there forever because it's so interesting. But yeah, the two differences was like machining your life. This was about how you engage with machining every day, and this was talking about like your refrigerator, like how every little piece is machined and different things. And then this was actually targeted. So this is targeted towards people. Oh, actually machining is important and we should care about it. And this is targeted towards students where it's like, hey, it's
Knowing your
important.
target audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have they have different target audiences. They have a primary, which is students, and then they have a secondary of, people who aren't involved in machining.
And I will always stress when using photos, if you can use your own
Yes.
photos, that
Yes.
sells the message better than any stock photo or
Correct.
AI generated stuff that
Correct.
you can get. It's
100%.
more authentic. People will recognize people in the photos
Mhm.
as local. The facilities,
Mhm.
the actions, the event space, that's where you get your connection.
Because people care about people. Anything else, guys?